Hello, friends. Welcome to In the Car with me, Sean Starr. Good to be with you on this Wednesday today. I'm having a little bit of a technical problem. Hope you could see me and everything's going well. See if I could set this straight. A little bit of a technical issue. This is prime time stuff, everybody. This is the big leagues. This is the big leagues of broadcasting. Welcome, 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 welcome. See, I don't understand. It's such a bit of a pain in the butt today. Try to get this thing organized. As maybe I should just leave, come back, and see if I can sort this out somehow, because we're having a problem today, you guys. Package just arrived. Thank you very much. I don't understand what is going on. Trying to make some adjustments, you guys, and see if I can get this all squared away. Hope I'm not making any of you nauseous. Anyways, I think I'm just going to do this like this. This is just terrible. Just terrible, you guys. Having a real hard time today, making some adjustments. I want to talk about PK Subban today, everybody. PK called it a career yesterday, and 13 years in the league, and PK Subban, see if I can fucking get this shit done already. Man, oh man, I'm sweating trying to get this thing organized today. In the aftermath of PK Subban calling it a career, are you ready to talk about who won the PK for Weber deal? Because I think I am. And I think now that PK Subban is retired, I'm really not happy. I'm very distracted with how this fucking camera is being set up today. Something is definitely wrong with this fucking thing, and it's really annoying me. And I can't seem to figure it out today. I don't know why that is, but it looks weird. This is not the normal setup. I am getting annoyed because this is not how I want to do this. But look at this. This is a fucking disaster. Can't get anything organized. My fucking thumb's in the way. This doesn't look right. Does this look right to you? I mean, I see people are watching this. People are on the stream, but I don't know. It looks weird. This doesn't look right to me. But anyways, I'm a professional, and we're going to put my head down, and we're going to plow through this mamma jamma. PK Subban, 13 years is done. You know, PK Subban for me, forever and a day, was and is a prime time player. I've always looked at PK Subban and described him comfortably as a 1% player. You put PK Subban in pressure-packed situations, you put him in the spotlight, and more often than not, PK Subban would shine and he would deliver. And that, my friends, is a 1%er. And for the 7 seasons that he spent here in Montreal, he is the most electrifying Montreal Canadian player I've seen, other than Patrick Roy, who is my number 1 player on my all-time Habs list. But PK is on the Mount Rushmore. PK Subban is in my top 5 for everything that he brought. Not only the just the added dynamic that really no other player in the league at the time and his approach would bring. And in 55 playoff games as a Montreal Canadian, this guy delivered 11 goals and 38 points. I mean, this is a primetime player. This is a gamer. This is a guy that does it better than really anybody else. And you know, for as much as we talked about Andrei Markov and how great of a player Andrei Markov was and what a great Canadian he was, Andrei Markov, in my opinion, is one of the best defensemen to ever wear the Montreal Canadian colors. The one thing about Andrei Markov was that he was often injured. And Andrei Markov doesn't have the reputation of crunch time 79 stepped up. PK Subban was that guy. And, you know, Andrei Markov had nothing but flattering things to say about his time with PK Subban. Talked about what a great teammate he was. And yes, he was energetic. And yes, he wasn't unanimously beloved by everybody in the room. That there was a moment in PK Subban's career as a Montreal Canadian, and I don't mean this to be offensive to anybody, but this is how I read PK Subban as a Canadian, that PK Subban was, in a conservative game like hockey at the NHL level, was a wild horse. And the Canadians, for the most part, tried to break this guy and tried to put a saddle on him and tried to get him to assimilate himself into hockey culture. And PK Subban marched to the beat of his own drum, and PK Subban believed in himself, and I think history has shown that PK was on the right side and that the Montreal Canadiens made some significant errors in judgment and strategy and how to embrace PK Subban's rather unique personality. And so I think when we look back on PK Subban's career as a Montreal Canadian player, unless full stop you just don't like the guy for whatever reason, you can't ignore the fact that he was a gamer and he was a primetime player and he was electrifying. And yes, nobody's perfect. But when it comes to the question about who really won the Shea Weber for PK Subban deal, I'm going to say the Montreal Canadiens won the deal. And I'm going to say the Canadiens were better off having Shea Weber than PK Subban. And I wasn't a fan of the deal at the time because I think I was right with the player that PK Subban was. But I don't know if the Canadiens are in the spot they're in today if not for Shea Weber. And it's impossible to prove, right? Because it's one of those intangible things like leadership. How do you measure leadership? How do you measure a guy's presence as it relates to team winning, rallying, winning titles, all that other stuff? I think Shea Weber, even though he missed a lot of hockey, especially early on as a Montreal Canadian when he was acquired for PK from Nashville, that Montreal needed that Shea Weber. You know, PK was never, I think, going to be a captain. Max Pacioretty, I think, was a failure as a captain. I don't think that he was intellectually or emotionally ready for that challenge of being a captain of the Montreal Canadiens. I choose to believe, I don't know this for certain, but I do choose to believe that PK and Max were never a match, and they had clashing personalities. And I think Max Pacioretty won that battle of, you know, what are we doing here? 67 versus 76, and they chose 67. And Shea Weber was as advertised, right? He was the leader. He was the quiet guy. He was a magnet. People rallied around Shea Weber and all that other stuff. That here we are today as Nick Suzuki is the captain, and Nick Suzuki keeps talking in glowing terms how much Shea Weber meant to his development. Shea Weber apparently gave him the blessing that, you know, you're good to go, kid. You're ready to be a captain. You are captain material. I've heard from people that describe Nick Suzuki as a brilliant person, a genius, with just how he thinks and approaches and conducts himself on and off the ice. And I think Shea Weber is not entirely, but partly responsible for that. And I just don't think, and again, there's no way to prove this, I just don't think the Montreal Canadiens ever get there, you know, with PK Subban in that kind of role. And, you know, even with Shea Weber and with Carey Price and the fact that those guys, for argument's sake, are retired, that, you know, Shea Weber laid everything possible on the line to win this Stanley Cup. And so did Carey Price. And I think the end result is it cost them the rest of their playing futures, that I don't believe we're going to see Carey Price or Shea Weber ever play in a meaningful NHL game again. And, you know, now that, you know, time has gone by and the Canadiens went to the Stanley Cup final and enough time has passed by, we have a new champion in Colorado who just signed Nathan MacKinnon to the richest contract in the salary cap era in the history of the National Hockey League. He gets paid more money than Connor McDavid does. That you can't ask for anything more. Knowing how hard it is to win a title, and the fact that Carey Price and Shea Weber, more or less, to be dramatic, more or less laid every ounce of athletic ability, of passion, of desire to win the Stanley Cup, they laid it all on the ice. And now their careers, I think, are over. And that, to me, is exceptionally valuable, and I'm going to give Shea Weber a lot of credit there. You know, I talked about the rallying angle of Shea Weber, and I think that's what those guys did. I think those guys, to a man in the room, knew that the light at the end of the tunnel was more or less extinguished, speaking specifically about Shea Weber, and how the team said, you know what, one more trip around the sun, we got to get this done. And I think that's what they did, and I think Shea Weber is hugely responsible for that. And look, it's not a knock on PK Subban. I like PK Subban. There's part of me still wishes that the Canadiens didn't trade PK Subban just because he was so fun to watch and so engaging and such a great ambassador to Montreal. But ultimately, from a just pure hockey perspective, I'm going to say the Canadians won the Shea Weber PK Subban deal. Final answer. Lock me in. And all this to say, I think PK Subban was a great citizen of Montreal. He was an exceptional philanthropist. And, you drive by the super hospital, there's PK Subban. PK Subban's name's on the rooms. PK Subban's presence is everywhere in that hospital. And that is more valuable, I think, than anything else. So it's a shame PK Subban's career ends the way it did, 13 years in the pros. I feel unfulfilled as a fan of the game, as a fan of PK. I wanted to see him win a Stanley Cup. And, if you asked me at the time, when he was a Canadian, when he got his contract, I would have bet you that PK Subban, when he hung up his skates, he would have been a Hockey Hall of Famer. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. 3 All-Stars, a King Clancy, a James Norris, and a heck of an entertaining player who no doubt is going to go on to do bigger and better things. I think PK Subban ultimately, and his claim to fame, is going to be someone that helps grow the game. And I think the future is bright for PK off the ice. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a mega deal with ESPN and becomes one of the faces of hockey from the media perspective. And I think that's going to be nothing but great for growth of the National Hockey League, right? Because, there are lots of people in Montreal that gravitated to PK Subban because he looked like you and talked like you or behaved like you. And that was a bit of a rare thing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for contributing. Let's go to Jocelyn. Marc Bergevin was a total abject failure as a general manager, point final. Yes and no. He made a lot of bad moves, but, he did some good stuff too. And especially, I'm not going to, crush Marc Bergevin because, when the Canadians decided to trade PK Subban, he says, "Oh, I'm not trading him. I'm taking call. People are calling. I can't stop people from calling." Well, they tried to move PK. They were trying to move PK, and they did. Sean, from 2012 to 2016, the Habs had a .604 point percentage and a .554 win percentage after the trade. The Habs had a point percent of .523. Habs win trade in the room, and Press won off the Preds won on the ice. I think that's a well-expressed point of view. Thank you for your contribution. And, it's one of those things we're never going to be able to measure it. The Nashville Predators, when PK got there, they went on the deepest run they had ever gone on in franchise history, and they were really set up. They had all the pieces in place. And yes, PK is a marvelous hockey player, but I can't tell you for certain that, Shea Weber, at that exact moment in time that PK helped them to a Stanley Cup final, that Shea Weber wouldn't have done that. I don't know. I do know that Shea Weber was often hurt and missed a lot of hockey as a Montreal Canadian player. But look, it's all about titles. When Carey Price got his mammoth-sized deal, I remember saying this, and I stand by it. I don't care with the if Carey Price brings a Stanley Cup to Montreal one time in his 10-year contract, the deal was worth it, and I would do it again. Same thing for Shea Weber. I don't give a shit. Get this team to the Stanley Cup final because that's what it's about, right? And they did. And ultimately, they came up 3 wins short of the ultimate goal. But as I said already, they laid everything they had possible on the ice and gave it all. And now it's the end of an era. Carey Price, Shea Weber, PK Subban. You listen to highlights of some memorable moments from PK's career. Pass from Eric Cole, pass from Michael Ryder, Andrei Markov to Thomas Plekanec, and Subban scores. It's like, it really is. It dawned on me at the end of an era. So, I don't know where you have PK on the list of great Hab players that you've watched in your lifetime. I'm 43 years old. My birthday's in October. I'm gonna be Stefan Richer. I'm turning 44 in October. And so, I've seen the Canadians win 2 cups, 86, 93. And my list begins with Patrick Waugh. Up next, it's the little Viking. It's Mats Naslund at number 26. Andrei Markov is the best defenseman I've ever seen play for the Montreal Canadiens. Just ask his peers what it was like when they had to match up with Andrei Markov across the board. Unfortunately, Markov doesn't have the pressure pack moments where he delivered. He doesn't have the playoff points, the padded resume to look at that, but nevertheless, he was a great Montreal Canadian, the greatest defenseman I've seen play for the Habs. And like it or not, he is one of the greatest defensemen to ever play for the Montreal Canadiens. And ultimately, PK Subban is on that list too, and so is Saku Koivu. So, that's my list. I'm curious what your list is and where PK is. And do you want to weigh in on who you think ultimately now won the Weber for PK? I'm very interested in your opinions. Feel free to express them either on YouTube or Facebook or anywhere else. Watch and subscribe to our channel and support me by supporting my sponsors like Little Bear, a family-owned and operated pet store on St. Catherine in Westmount for more than 20 years. Check them out online at littlebearonline.com. You see the message scrolling on the bottom of your screen. Use the promo code when shopping at littlebearonline.com in the car 10. Save yourself some dollars at checkout. And of course, K-Stop Gas Bar and Depanneur, proud sponsors of In the Car with Star, have been since day one. Family owned and operated on Highway 138 in Ganawagi. We're talking premium fuel at discount prices, and you don't pay the tax, and that's the best part. Go check them out. Tell them In the Car with Star sent you, and go check out their snack selection. Best snack selection any depanneur will have in your lifetime. And go take that to the bank. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you later this week as we get set for NFL Week 3.